You know that feeling when you scroll through endless TV listings, see a model that looks sleek on the page, click Add to Cart, and then the moment you actually mount it in your living room, the picture looks flat, the colors look washed out, and you're left wondering if you just wasted a good chunk of your budget? I've been there, and that's exactly why I'm doing this deep dive on the Samsung QMC LFD display, model QM55C. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. My goal here is to make sure you walk away knowing whether this ultra-slim 55-inch screen will actually fit your space, your watching habits, and your wallet, instead of ending up with a TV that lives only in the Niceto-Have folder. First off, let's talk about the thing that makes this model stand out in the crowded 4K market, the 28.5mm depth. That's less than 3 centimeters, practically a piece of glass on the wall. If you've ever tried to cram a traditional TV into a tight media wall, you know the nightmare of dealing with a deep chassis, bulky legs, and a mountain of cables. The QM55C's slim profile means you can mount it flush without worrying about a protruding box stealing the visual real estate. In my own apartment, the TV sits right behind a narrow bookshelf, and the only thing you notice is the picture, not a thick black box jutting out. That's a real win for anyone who values a minimalist aesthetic or who is working with a pre-existing wall that can't accommodate a thick cabinet. Now, the QMC part of the name stands for Quantum Mini LED Color. Samsung is marketing it as dynamic crystal color, boasting more than 1 billion shades. In practice, that translates to richer reds in a sports broadcast, deeper blues when you're watching a nature documentary, and smoother gradients in a darkroom movie. I tested it with a mix of HDR Netflix titles and a classic 1080p Blu-ray. The HDR content really benefited. The highlights popped without the halo effect you sometimes see on less sophisticated panels, and the shadow detail stayed usable. For a regular family movie night, the difference is subtle but noticeable. You feel a little more immersed, especially when the scene is supposed to be magical or intense. If your viewing habit leans heavily on streaming services that already compress color data, you'll still get a lift, but the impact is most pronounced on high-quality sources. Processing is handled by Samsung's Quantum Processor Lite 4K. It's not the top-tier Quantum Processor 4K you find in the flagship CLEDs, but it does a respectable job of upscaling low-resolution content. I played a 720p sports clip on the QM55C, and the processor filled in the missing detail enough that the image didn't look pixelated. Motion handling was smooth enough that fast-moving action didn't smear, which is a common complaint with cheaper 4K panels. The upscaling isn't magical. It won't turn a blurry YouTube video into a crisp masterpiece, but it does a better job than the generic chip you'd find in a budget brand. One feature that can be a game-changer for a home office or a family that loves sharing content is SmartView Plus. This allows you to wirelessly mirror your phone, tablet, or laptop onto the TV with just a tap. In a real-world scenario, I set up a quick video call with a client and projected their presentation onto the screen, eliminating the need for an external HDMI cable. The latency was low enough that the presenter could scroll through slides without a noticeable lag. For kids doing a school project, it means they can display their work on a big screen without fumbling with adapters. The downside? You need a fairly strong Wi-Fi signal. If your router is on the other side of the house, the mirroring can stutter. So, it shines in a well-covered network environment, but isn't a fallback if your home Wi-Fi is spotty. Let's talk about the practical side of installation. The TV ships with a standard Visa 400400 mount pattern, which means you can use most third-party wall mounts. The ultra-slim depth means you have to be careful with the mounting brackets. Clearance. Some brackets that are designed for thicker TVs can cause the screen to sit too far forward, negating the flush look. I used a low-profile tilting mount that gave enough room for the back panel while keeping the TV almost flat against the wall. Cable management is easier because the back is almost flat, but you still need to plan for power and HDMI cords. If you're hoping for a completely wire-free setup, you'll be disappointed. Samsung's One Connect box, which hides cables, isn't an option on this model. So, who should actually consider buying the Samsung QMC LFD? If you have a modern living room, a sleek media wall, or a small apartment where depth is a premium, this TV gives you the visual size of a 55-inch screen without the bulk. It works well for streaming enthusiasts who watch a lot of HDR content on services like Netflix, Disney Plus, or Amazon Prime, because the color volume